Good Erev Shabbos. We've been discussing the malacha of memachik, of smoothing, and memareach, of spreading creams out, which are prohibited based off of the initial malacha of removing hairs from hides to smooth out the hides. However, there is one important exception to this malacha of memareach, because while creams and other pliable items are subject to the prohibition, food items are exempt from this prohibition. It is entirely permissible to spread out food. For example, if one wants to make a peanut butter sandwich, that is entirely permitted to spread the peanut butter. The basic explanation behind this is because the essence of the malacha, as we mentioned, was to remove the hairs from the hides to make the hides more usable. But food, even food which I want to spread, like peanut butter, really is totally edible. The spreading is not what makes it edible. So the food itself is totally usable without this action. It is simply an improvement for my consumption. And therefore, it is so dissimilar to the initial enactment of this malacha that the Chazal did not deem it necessary to prohibit such an act of smoothing out food. The smoothing of the food itself is not considered a significant act. This is the explanation of the Magen Avraham and the Mishnah Berurah, and that is certainly the accepted custom. One is allowed to do so on Shabbos. However, the Ramah does put one exception on this and say that it says that it's appropriate to be strict even when smoothing food, when it is done not for consumption purposes, but entirely for aesthetic purposes. Because in that way, it is more similar to the removal of the hair from the hides, because it is preparing it for an appearance. It is making it in an improved state. It is not simply enhancing the already edible item, but it is taking that item and now making it more aesthetically pleasable. And therefore, says the Ramah, it would be an appropriate chumrah to adopt. It would be an appropriate stringency to adopt, not to smooth out food, the top of tuna salad or a hummus dish or something where one is spreading out the food purely for the sake of aesthetic purposes. So again, in general, smoothing out any food, peanut butter, cream cheese, you name it, something similar to spread out for the sake of enjoying it more is totally permissible, because that's not considered a significant act of spreading. It doesn't change the item itself. It is just making it more pleasant as a means of consumption. But when it comes to smoothing out for aesthetic purposes, then it already has hints of the initial malacha of improving the item for the item itself, and that's what one is attempting to do by spreading it out for aesthetic purposes. And therefore, the Ramah says, while it may not be prohibited, it may not technically speaking be prohibited, the Ramah says someone who wants to be strict under such circumstances, tavo alav bracha. Have a great Shabbos.